And all the pediatricians would tell me was, you're just not feeding her enough. You're a bad mom.
Hannah, how did you find Carnivore?
Well, I've heard you say that many times to many guests, and I've seen the pattern is to go way back, and so I'll go way back um, before I actually address the real question. So I was a '90s kid, so I grew up on all the junk, the Pop Tarts and the cereal and the Hot Pockets and the pizza rolls, all the things that were easy and convenient. I was being raised by a single mom, and so money was tight, and she wasn't around a lot. So it was just my brother and I for a long time, and we fended for ourselves. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, you know, all that good stuff. Um, so lots of processed food in a nutshell. So um, looking back on it, I understand where I'm at today because now that I know what I know. But anyway, so but I was able to eat all that junk, and I didn't put on any weight. I was a very skinny kid. I looked healthy on the outside, um, and but inside I struggled with a lot of things. Um, and I think this is a big problem that isn't really addressed in our culture. Is we only think that overweight kids have health problems, or if they're super sickly looking, right? If they're like too skinny, they're like, oh, you need to put on some weight, But like, as far as the actual health of children and teens, like I think that the people that are in the middle tend to get forgotten about or just ignored altogether. It's like, oh, you look fine, you know. Um, but basically, um, I had bad knees most of my childhood. Um, I had to get doctor's notes uh, to get out of my education classes. Um, my knees just hurt all the time, and I'd have aches in my legs, and um, no doctors could ever say anything or tell us what to do. I had, um, I remember vaguely being taken to someone who gave my dad some physical therapy exercises to do with me, but he didn't really have a super active role with me as far as like helping to make sure I was actually doing them because I was given these as a child. So I did not follow them at all. It was just, I didn't understand the purpose. And I don't think the doctor did either, quite honestly, looking back on it. Because I had to find out as a 24-year-old, just seeing a chiropractor uh, who told me that I had no cartilage in my knees. This was at 24 years old. And I was like, huh, well, that explains a lot. So um, they ended up giving me some injections directly into my knees. I think it was called Hyalgan, I think is the name of it's like, I think it was some kind of substance that was created from natural sources that they put in the knee to try to, you know, instigate, cartilage to be in place of cartilage or to help, the cartilage come back. But it did help a lot with the pain. But so but back to my childhood. So I had the bad knees. I had sinus infections and constipation, depression, um, debilitating anxiety attacks. Um, I didn't know that's what they were at the time. My mom would take me to the emergency room, and they'd run a bunch of tests. And they're like, I don't know, your white blood cell count's high for some reason. Don't know. And so I just thought I was just dying randomly sometimes when I got overstressed. And I found out again in my early 20s. I was just on the internet and I saw the symptoms. It's like, oh, that's what that is. Okay. So I had to do a lot of self-education when it comes to my health over the years. So, and then I had, you know, terrible menstrual cycles to the point where I would pass out. Like it was, if I was at school, like my mom would have to come get me because I'd be on the floor. And that followed me pretty much most of my young life into adulthood. I'd have to take at least 80 milligrams of ibuprofen every month to deal with that, on top of all the other things that you do to pain manage. It's probably really terrible on the gut. Looking back, I'm like taking that much pain medication every single month consistently. I'm not surprised that I have the issues that I developed later on. Um, so I tried my best as a kid. I covered up all of these things that bothered me because I was trying to be a good kid, and so I just tried to cover it all up. And over time, I just was like, I guess this is just normal life, you know? And I think that's a common thread with a lot of people in this space is um, feeling unwell is normal. It's like, this is just what happens. You get older and then things start falling apart immediately. And that's just life, right? So that's where I was. Then I grew up some. I went to college right out of high school and lasted a year before getting a boyfriend and getting pregnant. And it's a pretty scary time in our life, but that boyfriend became my husband and we started a family practically overnight. So all of a sudden I was a mom and at 20 years old. And this was just super overwhelming. It's so becoming a mom did a lot of like things for me, like okay, I need to start taking health seriously, right? So when I was pregnant, I cut out soda and I cut out MSG. That's all. I think that's all I did. I tried to do like more whole food eating, but for the most part, I fell back on all the foods I was taught how to cook, which was all stuff out of a box and stuff. But I tried. That was my first step into health, the health journey. And then let's see. And then so basically, because I was a new parent, I was so young, I just listened to the doctors and the professionals. And unbeknownst to me, you know, part of the greater conspiracy that is the Gerber company and the vaccine companies, and, you know, that just have all these people in their pocket. So I gave my new baby all the things that were recommended. And as a result, she was a very sickly little baby. She struggled a lot with thriving. She wasn't growing properly. And all the pediatricians would tell me was, you're just not feeding her enough. You're a bad mom because you're not, obviously, because your child isn't growing the way she's supposed to. She's in this certain percentile. She's supposed to be here. Why don't you work on that? You know, like it was all up to me. And it was awful. It was the worst. So just struggled for many years. You know, she kept being small for her age, but she was playing and eating just fine. And she was a very happy child. The only issues she had were gut issues. Like she'd have acid reflux and issues with, you know, bowel stuff. And but we never understood what it was. We were just completely clueless. And then I think she was 30 pounds for most of her young, like between 1 and 5. Like she was, you know, she didn't get way more than 30 pounds, which is pretty unusual. And then when she turned 5, we came across, again, a chiropractor who was also into, you know, I think a form of functional medicine, holistic stuff. And so they ran tests in their clinic for food allergy stuff, gut health stuff, and they diagnosed her with some serious gluten intolerances, and also some yeast overgrowth, and which explained why her body wasn't digesting anything. Basically, it was just going right through her anything she ate, which just makes sense why she wasn't growing, because she wasn't getting nutrients. Her body was just getting rid of everything. And so when we made the changes that were recommended, we stopped eating gluten. We switched to more whole food stuff, gluten-free lifestyle, and took some supplements to deal with the yeast in her gut. And she immediately started gaining weight and thriving. And that kind of was the catapult into my hippie, crunchy mom health journey. Because once I saw, hey, this natural stuff is working, I started to question the establishment at that point and be like, okay, what can I do for my kid, that is actually going to work? And so that's how we kind of started, trying to make more conscious health decisions. So we kind of went into paleo a little bit, but mostly try to be just whole food based for many years after that. And in that time, I had 2 more children, and I was doing all the health things that come to your mind, like green smoothies and black bean brownies. Lily, my firstborn, is the only one who remembers those, and she just cringes every time we think about them. Like, what were you doing, Mom? Like, I don't know. And morning glory muffins. I don't know if you've heard of these, but they're like a breakfast muffin that has like vegetables, fruits, and nuts, like all mixed together into one little muffin. So it's just supposed to be a great balanced breakfast. So, and nut milks.
Lots of fiber too.
Lots of fiber. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. And then I did all the fermenting stuff, all the soaking of everything, and yeah, all the nut milks. We were also doing dairy free because I had then, and kind of still do, had a casein allergy, like intolerance. I can't do any casein protein at all. It's not a lactose. It's the actual protein that's in the milk. So for a long time we were gluten free and dairy free, definitely. And I think that kind of helped us get to this next point, because we were already, we were away from the processed foods, trying to do more organic and whole food stuff. So back to the original question. So the simple answer is Joe Rogan. My husband listened to his podcasts, and specifically the one with Sean Baker and Jordan Peterson, and them, talking about just eating just meat. And he decided he was going to do it for a year. He was like, my husband's a very all in or nothing kind of guy. So he's like, I'm doing this. Like, okay, I don't understand, but I'm in charge of cooking for you, so I'll do whatever you want me to. So it was, so he did the whole year. He was pretty strict with it. I don't think we really cheated that much. And the whole time, I wasn't sure how to feel about it. I was just like, oh, that's kind of weird, but okay, I still love you, And then his year was up, and he looked better. He lost all the weight that he had gained after getting married to me and having a lot of 50% off Chili's meals when I worked there. And then and so 5 months later, I decided to try it myself. And I can tell you, one of the catalysts for it was, I'm not a big exercise person. I am terrible at exercising. I find it so boring and monotonous, and I've got better things to do. I've got people to keep alive. I don't have time to be in the gym for an hour every day. So, yeah, but I had some stubborn baby weight, and I was determined to get rid of it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I bought a 12-week program, postpartum program geared towards women after having kids, and I stuck to it, man. 12 weeks. I used this regimen religiously, and I stuck to it, and I've never done that ever before in my life. Stuck to a regimen before. At the end of it, no difference. No difference at all. I had some strength, right? Like I had gained some amount of endurance and strength as a result because I was doing things repeatedly, working my muscles. But the weight was still there. The belly was still there. All of the bloat, the now I know in hindsight, inflammation, it was all still there. And I was like, I feel jilted. I'm like, I was told if you eat right, which I believed I was doing fruits and vegetables and healthy meats and, not too much meat, right? Just no saturated fats, but coconut oil is fine. And so I was doing all those things and working out at that point and not seeing the results that I wanted. It was really difficult. I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? you know? And so that's the point after seeing what my husband went through with Carnivore. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do some more research into this. So I got on YouTube's and I did all the research and watched more videos and tried to get an idea of, okay, what's this really about? Because all my husband did is he just listened to those podcasts and he was like, just feed me burgers and steaks for the next year. Like that was his approach to Carnivore. He didn't he didn't watch any of Dr. Barry's videos or any like he didn't do any other research than that. It was just like, just give me just plain beef like for a year. I'm gonna hate it, but whatever. And I was like, okay. So I did the research and got more into it, learned about the science of it, and just got more knowledge, and I felt more comfortable trying it out. So I started May of, it's been exactly, it must have been 2022. Yeah, because I just had my 2-year carniversary. So yes, and I had no idea what I was in for. Like, because I was like 30 days. I was committed to 30 days, and I was like, I'm gonna just lose my weight, and then I'll just get back to normal, right? Like this whole carnivore thing is weird. I only need to do it for a little while, just to get the baby weight off, and then I'll just get back to normal life. That was my mentality going into it. So yeah, that's how I came to this whole thing.
Well, congratulations on your 2-year anniversary. You're a month ahead of me.
Thank you.
Wow, nice. So what happened with the baby weight came off? You got healthier. Did you notice other things?
Oh yes. So after the 30 days, so first off, I was instructed by a wiser person not to weigh myself. I mean, I did, but I didn't use the scale as a measurement of is progress being made. I took pictures. So I did, what was recommended, and I took, body pictures. And yeah, it was gone within 30 days. I was back to my pre-baby weight. Like, it wasn't a lot. I mean, it was like 20 pounds, 20, 30 pounds, but that was a lot for me. Cause like I said, my whole life I'd been a skinny person.
Like I weighed like 120 pounds like most of my life. So to have that extra weight, you know, even 20 pounds, like it was noticeable for me. And so that was gone, and I was thankful for that. However, I noticed other things that were gone and were better. And I was like, okay, let's keep going. Let's see, you know, what else we can do. So um, I made a list of all the things that have changed because it's hard to keep track in my head a little bit because it's just been so many things. Like literally, I'll make a list and then I'll just be walking around going about my day, and then something else will come. Oh yeah, that thing. That's right, that too. Um, so so yeah, I've been doing this for 2 years, and this is what I experienced. So not only did I get back to my pre-baby weight, I was fitting into my old pants that I was really happy about. Um, I had new energy. Um, Most of my mom life that I've lived, I don't remember much about my teen years, but like being a mom, there were many times, there were scary times where like I'd be so tired, I'd be driving around with my kids, and my eyes would feel heavy. Like I was that tired. Like I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to fall asleep on the road? This is not okay. And I remember always trying to find a solution to that. And get this, I can't have caffeine. So I am not one of those people that has a coffee, relationship. I don't have a relationship with coffee or tea, because as I mentioned earlier, with the anxiety attacks I experienced when I was younger, they continued into my adulthood, and I realized that caffeine was a trigger. And the second I cut out the caffeine, I stopped having them. It was it was amazing. I was like, that's wonderful. I can do that. I can avoid that. However, when you're a mom and you're sleep deprived and you're exhausted all the time, it's hard to find energy. You're like, if I can't have caffeine, that's what all other moms use. They use caffeine. What am I supposed to use? So I went to like supplements and these other plant-based vitamins and things that I would buy. I don't know if you've heard of Plexus, but I did that for a while. It's like all this supposed to be natural supplement stuff, and I did that for a while, and it kind of helped a little bit, but it wasn't super noticeable. But when I switched to carnivore, it's not a problem. Not a problem anymore. I could just go. I wake up and I just go until my head hits the pillow at night. And I've never been one that takes forever to fall asleep, in bed. My husband's the opposite, but I am. I've always been pretty good about that. But I don't think I've ever had like really good sleep. You know what I mean? Like I could fall asleep, but I wouldn't get into that really good REM sleep. Like where you're dreaming and you're like your brain is actually doing what it's supposed to do. And so I think that started happening. And so as a result, I just felt like an Energizer bunny. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And as a mom, like, yeah, I could keep up with the kids. And that became, and just that alone, just that side effect alone was enough to become my why. Well, I was like, if this helps me be a better mom, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. So, um, so more energy. That's not all. So we got, I struggled with aches and pains, right? My whole life. I had this phantom pain in my arm that I got randomly one day. Like it felt like a pinch, like a nerve pinch. And I got an MRI done. I went to doctors and they couldn't tell me anything. They're like, we don't see what's wrong. I'm like, oh, great. I just have this this pain just for no reason. Great. Thanks, guys. That's why I get paid the big bucks. So I don't have that anymore. Period. It's gone. I don't have that. I used to not be able to like rotate my arm because it would hurt. That it would make that hurt again. Not an issue at all anymore. No more achy legs, restless leg syndrome. I did have that sometimes.
How about your knees?
Oh, my knees. Yeah, I have not had any more knee pain at all. And I have no more. I used to have sinus infections really badly that would like knock me out. That's like the only thing that would knock me out is a sinus infection, and they'd happen pretty regularly. Don't have those at all anymore. I get sick maybe, I don't know, maybe once a year. Once, like I think I've gotten sick on Carnivore 2 times, like over the last 2 years. Like I got COVID one time, and then this most recent time, I think it was just a normal, tiny cold flu thing that went away in a few days. But yeah, so I'm not debilitated most of the year with some kind of illness or sickness, which is huge for me because I'm the primary caretaker of our home. I'm a homemaker. That's what I do. I homeschool our kids and I take care of our house. And I have a lot to do, right? I can't take a break necessarily. I can't like take off work, right? Whenever mom is sick, everything shuts down. It's just pandemonium. So I really appreciate not having to take sick days. That's just a really big plus for me. Another big thing that I don't think I've heard talked about a lot on interviews is dental health. So I know a lot of other carnivores experience this, but for me, honestly, I've lost count how many cavities are in my mouth. Like I think 12. I think I have 12. But my memory from like a decade ago is really bad, I think because of all the brain fog and stuff. But yeah, I would just get cavities just looking at sugary stuff. It didn't matter how much I brushed. And I always get mad at my husband because he has perfect teeth and he doesn't have the same hygiene that I do. Like he's just like, I've never had a cavity. I'm like, no, it must be nice having those super awesome genes. But yeah, I always struggled with, I hated going to the dentist. It was always a nightmare. I always dreaded it because they found something wrong every time. Every time they would find something wrong. And I hated how it felt. Like it always hurt. And I was always sensitive. And yeah, it was awful. And then I had, don't Google this, it's gross, tonsil stones. Okay. Your tonsils have little pockets in them. And it's believed that our tonsils are kind of part of our immune system, trying to keep yucky, bad stuff out of us by trapping things. And I guess for some people it's a bigger problem than others. But I would just develop these stones in my tonsils that would create the worst breath you could think of. It was awful. It was, my love life was in jeopardy, Dave. Like my husband did not want to kiss me. It was really bad. And I was so dejected because all the mouthwashes in the world, all the teeth brushing I was doing, nothing worked. Nothing worked. I felt trapped. And I even asked my dentist, I was like, what do you do for these? And so, oh yeah, my husband has those too. You just kind of have to have them. You can't really do anything for them. And I was like, well, that's awful. But gone. I do not have them anymore. And my husband is happy now. My love life has been saved. So, and I also don't brush as often because my mouth doesn't feel dirty. Like I don't develop a film on my teeth. Like I said, and the breath isn't an issue either. So I'm just kind of like, I floss when I need to because, eat a lot of meat gets stuck. So, but yeah, for the most part, it's very easy. And for me, that's just huge because of my background with dental stuff. So, very encouraged by that for sure. Then digestive stuff. No more bloating. I had bloating for a long time. I was very self-conscious about it. So, it makes you look like you're pregnant, still, and when you're not. And it's just like, I couldn't figure it out. Didn't know what was going on. And like I guess this is just normal. I guess this is just the way it is. Bloating, constipation, just that uncomfortable feeling in the bathroom that you have. Like, I guess this is just something people deal with. And all gone. All gone. I stopped. And I even tested it, right? Like I tested this after being carnivore for like a month. After my first month, I tried, like, I think I had a salad or something, I had some kind of vegetable and immediately stopped me up. And I was like, oh, well, okay. I guess I'm just not eating that anymore. And like, once I realized that connection, because that's something I struggled with most of my life, right? And now all of a sudden I'm comfortable in the bathroom. It's not a scary, awful thing, right? Now, I know it's TMI subject for some people, but it's something we have to talk about, okay, everyone? Just sorry. We have to talk about the TMI subjects when it comes to our
And
health.
I think this is one of the really powerful things about carnivore, because you've knocked out so many foods. When you do reintroduce something, if your body doesn't like it, you can tell straight away.
Oh,
And you can
definitely.
say, oh, I know it's this thing, no more of it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's easier to tell people that, right? Like, if people say, oh, why don't you eat, this or that? And I can say, oh, my body doesn't like it. Like, it makes me feel poorly. It makes me sick. I can legitimately say that. And that's helped me a lot socially. But improved skin. I used to struggle with psoriasis. The kind of like, and for me, it developed on my head, right here, right on my face, right for the whole world to see. I couldn't hide it with clothing. I have never been a makeup person, so I never, could cover it up with anything. And I'll probably like have to share pictures sometime down the road on the internet somewhere. Like, 'cause it's just crazy. It's like scaly, bright red, just patches just all over your face. Like, oh, it was awful. And I was always frustrated because I couldn't find the source. I tried cutting out so many things and I could never figure it out. Closest I got was maybe sesame or soy, but I just didn't know. Didn't know. Now I notice it tries to aggravate because it's an autoimmune response. At least for me, it is. So I have to watch what I eat with even certain carnivore foods, because if I eat certain things, like eggs that aren't soy and corn free, right? Like if they're fed corn and soy, which I know my body doesn't like, then I'll get a reaction. So yeah, that's all skin issues cleared up. My skin's great. I don't have any complaints. I used to get really bad cystic acne. I think mostly due like it's mostly dairy, like any kind of dairy or I mean there were other foods that would do it too, but if I cheated and had dairy, like it definitely was noticeable and difficult. And yeah, just no issues at all with skin anymore at all. Back to TMI. not as much body odor. And this is another thing that a lot of people talk about. Now, I wouldn't say mine's 100% gone like some people's, but it's a significant difference. Like if I cheat, or like in my first year, like I'd have some days where I'd have some fruit or something. I put some other non-carnivore food in and immediately noticed a difference in the way I smelled, and it's not good. And I think a lot of people don't think about their body odor because their instinct is, I'm just going to throw deodorant on immediately, because that's just what you do. You just throw deodorant on the strongest smelling stuff you can find. But honestly, like, you know, I haven't needed to use anything super strong for a long time. And that's a positive, especially as a woman, because we're very self-conscious about things like that. So, and okay, this is probably one of the biggest ones. Back to my menstrual cycle. I am taking nothing. Absolutely nothing. I have had, I'm not going to say no pain, but I have had cycles where I forget I'm even having it. I'm just like, oh, there's evidence, but I don't feel it, right? Like, and it'll like to sneak up on me, and I'll just be going about my day like normal, no PMS symptoms, and that's just huge as a woman, like, because the whole PMS thing, it's a cage, it's bondage, it's just like it's this thing that just like anchors us to doom for a week, and sometimes the week before, like leading up to it, you know. And like I said, mine was so bad that it was just, I dreaded it every single month. Now I'm just like, it's just normal life, and I have no pain. Sometimes I have to, if I'm not good about eating, I use meat is my new ibuprofen. That's Meat is my new painkiller. Because that's, I notice, like if I don't eat, like if I'm not prompt about eating, like right before, my body is like, gives me little signals like, you need that, you need those nutrients right now. And so like I'll wake up, for example, feeling kind of, I'm not feeling too great, and then I go eat breakfast, I'm good to go. So amazing. Like, how amazing is that? Like, just not needing to go to a pill to feel better about just being able to function and not have pain. I think that in itself is amazing to me.
Definitely. I mean, it just, I mean, like you mentioned, you said the word bondage. It really is like being tied down, right?
Mm-hmm. Because
And
it's mental
just
and
getting that
physical.
relief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you feel the symptoms physically, and you're also mentally preparing. You're like, oh no, like you're anticipating the unpleasantness of it, and that brings more bad feelings and stress on your body, which creates more pain. It's a vicious cycle, pun intended. So yeah, I strongly encourage, you know, women especially that are struggling with that. Like, I try to hint them towards this way of eating, because like, yeah, I mean, you could drink the red raspberry leaf tea, you can take the magnesium supplements, you can um, take this pill and that pill, but what if I told you you could just eat bacon and eggs and steak? Like, what if you know, um, it's cheaper and more delicious, and it works. And I know that I've been interested to check out Elizabeth Bright's book she made about um, puberty in young girls and how that's kind of changed over the years. It's a fascinating topic. I encourage everyone to try to find the interviews she's done on the subject, but about how women since the 60s, I mean, further back than that, but like the 60s is kind of when, the pill was created and it was just downhill from there. Like as soon as we started putting chemicals in women, to stop them from doing what's natural to them, like, yeah, it created some side effects, I think, down the line that we're seeing in large numbers now, to the point where now it's normal. Like we're talking about now, it's just normal to have a miserable puberty experience and reproduction cycle. Like it's just I'm just I just have to feel terrible because I'm a woman, and that's just the way it is. Um, so I'm getting towards the end of my list just a little bit. I guess there's more. Um, so I think this. So I have a few, but they're kind of all lumped together. So this one is mental, all but the brain. So I have less anxiety, um, more confidence, um, more mental focus and memory. Well, like a recent experience, like a few months ago, I met some new moms, and it was a group, and we got together, we had a good time, and then normally in that kind of circumstance, I'm terrible with names and faces, right? Like I have to see the person and hear their name a bunch of times. Typically, that's how I have been. And so at the end of this one night I spent with these women, I was able to leave and say goodbye to all of them by their name. I was able to, it was like 7 or 8 women, names and faces I was remembering. And I was like, I have never done that before. I was shocked. And it's just little stuff like that, but it builds up, right? Like it's just realizing your mental acuity and how having improvements in that, you're just like, oh, I remembered that thing, and I could pay attention to that, that podcast or whatever I was listening to. Because that's another thing. Like I've had trouble with focusing. Like if I'm listening to a podcast or a church sermon or something, and my brain will be all over the place. I'll be thinking about dinner or the other million of things I got to do instead of focusing on what the person in front of me is saying or on my phone is saying or whatever. Um, and I've noticed that has improved. Like I can actually zero my thoughts and be like, oh, the noise is gone. That's amazing. um, and yeah, so that's been really helpful. It's helped me a lot because I actually host a book club in our church group, and what I was hosting it, but I was having a hard time reading the book. Like, and I was like, a lot of this stuff's going over my head. I was like, I'm not to reread stuff like a bunch. This is annoying. I don't like this. And then I just made some subtle changes in my eating, and the next time I approached it, I was like, oh, okay, I know what's happening now. I can actually have a discussion about this. So that has been awesome. Um, just being able to learn new things and retain information. Like I think some people take that for granted. Like, because I think for some people, maybe learning new things comes more naturally, and their brain just kind of hang on to stuff more. But there's people like me out there that just things just kind of like in and then out. Like it's hard to hang on to information. Um, but with this way of eating, I have found I perform better mentally. And another aspect that this um, melds into is things like PTSD and trauma. because I have some, childhood trauma that I've had a hard time with, and it caused a lot of relationship strife, in my marriage and with friendships and things. Like, I would just get triggered really easily by things that weren't really being said. I would kind of just imagine, like, so and so said, "Oh, it's such a nice day outside," and in my brain, I'd be going, "Is she saying that I don't get out enough? Is she judging me for, if am I supposed to go outside? What are you trying to say?" Like that kind of stuff. It's I think there's a term for it. It's like, some people call it like intrusive thoughts or things. These thoughts that just kind of come in, and they're not based in reality or truth. It's just meant to just tear you down. And
So you stop taking things at face value. You're always looking for that double meaning.
right, which is an exhausting way to live, if you can imagine. My husband he's always marveling at me. He's like, "How do you worry about stuff like that?" I'm like, "I don't know. That's just the way my brain works." I wish I was like you and I could just compartmentalize everything, but I can't. But in regards to that, I've also seen improvement with that. Like, I'm not triggered as easily by things people say. I don't have those thoughts as pervasively as I used to. So as a result, I'm actually able to help, my fellow, you know sisters in my groups and stuff that are struggling with similar things, and I can be the objective one and say, "Oh, okay, I see what happened. I see how you got triggered. This is why, and let's work through this." Like, I'm actually able to be objective, not only towards other people but also in my own experiences. And that's just and that's something I didn't realize until recently, actually. Like, I thought, because I have been getting some counseling, with my pastor's wife has been helping me, work through a lot of stuff over the past year. But I also realized, like, but I've also been doing carnivore the whole time, and I believe in the brain connection when it comes to food. And I think that how we process information is very, very pertinent, to what's in there. Is there a bunch of bulls in a china shop going on in there? Like, are things, wrecking house in there? Called, starts with an O, ends with an S, I think, from plants. But yeah, so I think the mental part has been just so freeing, and depression too, right? Like, I also struggle with depression and irritability. Like, I would get super irritated at my family just out of nowhere. And my poor husband, like, we had so many disagreements and fights that were meaningless and just didn't have to happen, because I was just upset, just because my brain was just not healthy at all. So I find I'm a much happier person, a much more patient mother, and it's just been amazing.
That's awesome. So how are you eating day to day to, maintain this complete turnaround in health?
Right. It's been a bit of a journey. So when I first started, I didn't do the keto thing. I am I am similar to my husband, I guess, and then I'm kind of an all-in kind of person. So I started cold turkey. I just stopped eating everything. Started eating steaks and hamburger meat, and just kind of went all in with it. And I realized, and I felt really good in that first year, but I would still have cheat days. Like, things would come up, like family events or holidays or something, and I didn't have the strength, the willpower to just say no. And I also the first year I didn't. It took me a while to realize that I was as Kelly Hogan puts it, I need to be an abstainer. Abstainer, sorry, we're wrong with the letter. Abstainer, because I learned that sweet tastes like stevia and all the keto approved sweeteners messed with me, made my cravings come back, made my hunger signals get messed up. And so it took me a while to realize that. So there was a lot of stumbling and falling. Because like I would do the element electrolyte packets that are flavored, and I would do the you know um, anything you can think of, right? The keto, it's like approved. I didn't do like the store bought stuff, but anything you can make at home. And my kids really enjoyed. Pro tip: the element packets, you can put them, combine them with sparkling water, and it makes soda. They really enjoy it. I haven't done that in a long time, but as soon as my kids learned how to do that, that was just like, oh, it feels like we're cheating. It feels like we're having soda. So yeah, so that first year was kind of bumpy because of that, because I was still kind of learning what my carnivore journey was going to look like. Because it looks different for so many people, right? Like it's not, you have to eat this specific way or that specific way, or you're failing, there's just so many different ways to do this lifestyle, this way of eating. And so like I started with like steaks and raw suet, actually, because I couldn't tolerate butter because of the dairy intolerance I had. So, and I didn't like fat. I didn't like fat. I've never liked fat on steaks. I like, that's, I think it's a sensory thing, honestly. And so the concept of just eating the fat that was on the steaks, like, I was like, I'm not there. I'm not there. So that's when I got a tip from someone on YouTube about, just get raw suet out of the freezer and just, eat it. It's like a different kind of texture and consistency. It's not that, the hot, gooey thing. And so I did that for a little while. I didn't like that either too much, but here's the thing. I believe that on this way of eating, if you eat the stuff that's good for you, even if it's not super pleasant, your body still takes in those nutrients and it starts to realize, oh, this exists. I like this. Let's have more of this, And so I eventually started developing a taste for more fats and having it in different ways and things. And I was like, oh, I'm actually craving that right now, and it actually tastes good to me. So, but that first leading up to that year was a little rough because of that, because I had to get through that me and fat thing. we're not on super great terms, but I understood the importance of it. I knew I needed it. So instead of avoiding it stubbornly, I was like, okay, I'm just going to force my way through this. And I didn't like ground beef either. So I was not a super big ground beef fan. And you know what the economy's like, how it's been like. It's kind of hard to get whole cuts of meat that are delicious at a bargain. And when you're a family of 5 on one income, it's a little tricky. It takes some maneuvering and things. But so I switched to probably towards the end of my first year. I tried doing more. I was feeling better, right? And I realized I could tolerate butter to an extent and eggs. So I started doing BBE and bacon, butter, beef, and eggs, and some chicken sometimes. I really love chicken thighs and wings. That was my favorite. I could eat a Buffalo Wild Wings. Like, we might do that for my birthday this year. I don't know. They cook their wings in beef tallow, just so you know, everyone knows. And yeah, so I would have, you know, like I would incorporate different animal products. But then after my first year, I started noticing some symptoms, and I looked into it, and I was doing some more research. What is this? Come to find out, I have still have some autoimmune kind of histamine related intolerances going on. So that limits me a bit when it comes to carnivore. I can't do pork and chicken. I have to stick to ruminant meats, and I can't cook them super long. And there's a few other things like, yeah, so bacon, eggs are gone, and butter, unfortunately. But this is something that I think this is kind of funny, okay? Like, this is my goal, right? My health goal is being able to eat bacon and eggs and butter. That's my, like, if I stay on this path that I'm on, which is at the moment more lion, I guess you could say. So it's just beef and tallow. And I just restarted this actually last week. So I've been still playing around with what my body needs more. And I learned that when I eat eggs and butter, in particular, and bacon, I develop inflammation, and I gain some weight, and I know it must be inflammatory weight because as soon as I stop eating them, the weight goes away. And like, and also with the brain noise, right? Like, I noticed a difference in my focusing as well. And so I think it, very possible is inflammation going on because my body's like, I don't like that stuff right now. That's too, that's not safe enough for you right now. I know my gut still has a lot of healing to do after all that it went through my growing up years. So I am not discouraged by the where I'm at right now as far as eating. Because I know that I'm on the right path, right? Like, I am on the elimination diet, the essential elimination diet, and that doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt you. Your body just slowly starts to knit things back together. I'm also incorporating more fasting. I just switched to one meal a day. I went through a period where I was eating 3 meals a day, and it was kind of forced. I was kind of trying to fill myself up full of, good nutrients and stuff, trying to, accelerate my healing. But then my body was like, okay, I'm done with that. So then I switched to 2, and then I was still having some gut stuff, and I was like, let's just try a nice ribeye once a day. A ribeye a day keeps the doctor away. They had it all wrong all these years. It's not an apple. Turns out. And so that's what I've been doing this past week, and I'm probably going to continue to do. So it's technically a 24-hour fast. Just eating, one meal kind of in the afternoon, just one steak. And I don't even supplement it with a ton of fat because I've noticed my stomach is like, no, what's on there is enough. That ratio is fine. Which I wasn't used to because I'm used to supplementing tons of fat to whatever I'm eating. So back to the TMI, that's a way to listen to your body, right? Is how are your bathroom habits? That is, it's a great diagnostic tool that your body is giving you to say, okay, you need to ease up on the fat, or maybe you need to eat some more, and I've been appreciating that and just kind of reading my
body signals, no matter how unpleasant they are sometimes, but you get the picture and you're able to make adjustments. So yeah, so that's basically all I'm eating right now is just steak. That's on sale.
So, has your husband gone back to doing this?
So my husband is a special case. He will eat anything that I prepare for him, and basically, when I switched to this way of eating, I I switched our whole family over. So like even our kids are doing it too. Um, they're a little more ketovore. Which so I try to say that more whenever I'm talking to people like we're ketovore, because if you say carnivore, people can get upset if you use pickles or something. I was like, okay, they get pickles, they get some uh, mayonnaise once in a while, or they get this or that, just little things. Sometimes fruit is a treat every once in a while. So they're not as strict as I am. And I try to keep my husband strict on it, but I say he's a special case because he doesn't stick to it in public. So as long as we're home, he'll he'll eat all the meat things and he's fine with that. But if we're at an event or we're just out doing stuff as a family and we have to stop at like Wendy's or something, I'm next to him ordering all the burger patties and he's ordering a regular hamburger, like with fries and a soda, and I'm just like, what are you doing? But he's just that kind. He just won't go. I think to him it's kind of a social thing, right? Like he doesn't want to inconvenience people or come off as someone needing special attention. He doesn't want to draw attention to himself. So he's very much a go along with the flow kind of person. So yeah, but for the most part, as a family, we are doing it together. So we don't have stuff in the house, that is problematic and, gonna cause issues, which is just really nice, honestly. Like I know some people have to struggle because they're living with family and they're the only ones doing carnivore. And so they're having to struggle through that and make meals that are non-carnivore. And yeah, I sympathize with people like that. Thankfully, I do not have that issue, but
Nice. So, if a friend came to you and was interested in getting started with carnivore, what advice would you give them to get started?
I love that question. And it's something I think about often because I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm in the movie The Matrix sometimes. Like, because I'm just watching everyone around me struggling with all of these issues and problems, and life is just toil. And I'm just like, you could just eat meat and maybe your problems would go away. And there's like, what? Like, okay, well, I'm glad that works for you. That's what I get a lot. I'm glad that works for you. And I was like, okay. But so for newcomers or people that are considering, I have a few tips. So first, I would say join a community. This is very important. I joined in the very beginning, Steak and Butter Gals, Steak and Butter Gang. Bella is awesome and her team is wonderful, and I highly recommend them. But there's a lot of communities on YouTube that have developed, and you just pick one. Just pick one, get in there. I like Carnivore Quest. They're awesome over there too. Just find a group full of like-minded people because you are the minority. You are not, so
you are going to experience a lot of adversity and temptation and not a lot of support from your external, friends and family. You need to have people you can lean on during the times, especially in the beginning when you're first transitioning and everything, and you're so uncertain about everything. And very essential. Definitely join a community. And secondly, I would watch as many videos as it takes. Check out all the doctors. I love how many doctors we have in this space. Because I just remember thinking, like, if I just tell someone, no, go check out this guy on YouTube, like, listen to him. Some people aren't going to go for that. Some will be like, I'll listen to a doctor, thank you. And it's like, okay, good. There's a doctor here too that also says this is okay. So, Dr. Barry, Dr. Chafee, Kiltz, and Hampton, and there's a lot. So, like, seriously, just get on, watch all the educational videos, and also check out, videos like yours, like your channel. I really appreciate because of the stories, like just getting real people, not paid actors, right? This is not like a Ozempic commercial. We are not, I promise I'm not getting paid for this at all. I don't even have a sponsorship. I'm just here because I want to share my experience in the hopes that other people will benefit and feel inspired and motivated and be like, oh, okay, maybe I could try that too because it worked for them. So just check out lots of videos like that, get inspiration from other people. I think you're going to find the carnivore space is one of the most welcoming communities that there is, probably because they're all happy people, because they're not bogged down with a bunch of junk and stuff. And so they're just, no more depression and off all the medications and feeling no pain. Like, just imagine like what that does for so many people. So very, very welcoming community. Number 3, I would say, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's very important to figure out if you are an abstainer or a moderator. I think this is something, it took me way too long, but you either have to clear out your kitchen completely when you get started, or just segregate things, depending on your situation. But you have to figure that out about yourself, or you're going to just set yourself up for failure. It's good to know yourself going into this. And I think, what else? Oh, and then lastly, I would say ignore dogma. Do what it takes, because the carnivore space is not perfect, right? It's, like I was saying, it's a very welcoming, warm place, but there's always going to be people in a group that are ridiculous and not looking out for the best interests of their neighbor. They're just, surly for no reason. But do what it takes to keep your primary food intake animal products, whether that's seasonings, condiments, dairy, like natural flavors. Like, all of these things can be sorted out later. In the beginning, don't feel insecure about adding, I don't know, if you got to eat a pickle with it, okay, eat a pickle with your burger if you got to. Do what it takes, because getting started is what matters. And I believe that when it comes to healing, our bodies naturally start to crave and refuse the things that we need to feel better. So as long as we get, start putting all the good stuff in, we can start to, we won't crave the mustard as much, later in life. We can start to appreciate the taste of meat the way it is. It's like, oh, turns out my body actually enjoys this, but you kind of got to trick your body at first, because think about it, your body's been on junk your whole life, or it's been on, you know, it's been all about special tastes and seasonings and the culinary experience your whole life. And so you kind of have to trick it. You have to be like, you know, there's some good stuff, you know, let's throw some sprinkles on top just to get it in your body. And then, you know, don't worry about it. And I'd also say the same thing applies to supplements. I've had to take some supplements because of my autoimmune issues. There are people that, like carnivore purists, that want to say, "Oh, you need nothing but meat. If you eat, you do not need anything else. And anyone says otherwise is trying to, you know, con you or whatever." I'm like, you know, you there are people that are very broken because of the diet they've been on. The food industry has broken their bodies. So they need help. They need a leg up. And supplements do that. Things like, so like I'm doing beef kidney right now. So desiccated beef kidney, that's what people recommend for histamine intolerance. I also take a HCl to help with acid, stomach acid, and that's just to make sure my body is properly digesting what I'm eating, right? Like, and I know that I won't be taking these things forever. Like, I'm just getting to a place where, you know, I can heal. That's the point, is healing. So, yeah, I think that's what I would say in a nutshell. That's a pretty big nutshell, but
Very, very good advice. So Hannah, how do people reach out to you if they want to get in contact? Do you have social media or anything?
well, I actually just started a YouTube channel. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I wanted a creative outlet, about something I'm passionate about, which, you know, this lifestyle has given me a lot of passion and giving me my health back, and so I kind of want to share that with others. So I created a channel called Carnivore Homemaking, and I just have a few like videos on there. I'm still working on building it up, but um, yeah, just for fun, just to kind of encourage other families in particular. It's kind of my demographic. I'm going to try to reach out to, you know, more people wanting to do this with kids. You know, how do I do this, you know, with kids in this world? And so that's kind of my passion. So that's where I am.
Nice. So I'll link to your channel below. Thank
you.
you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Hannah. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Dave. You're awesome.